Is Virginia Tech's passing defense really any good, and should Florida State be concerned? Or is it just because they can't stop the run and it's an opportunity for Florida State's running offense to get rolling?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Today's episode, we are going to break down a couple of key mismatches with the Florida State Seminoles and the Virginia Tech Hokies. The next game back at Doak Campbell Stadium on October 7th, this Saturday. Let's get into the overview of this. Number one, I'm going to give a little credit where it's due for Virginia Tech. It's a team that's kind of in change, if you will, with their offense, with what's going on. They beat Pittsburgh last week, who's not very good, but they beat them pretty decisively. So I'll give them some credit for that. We'll go into why they did. But also the mismatch part will stem from the positives, ironically, Virginia Tech gets in segment one, because segment two explains why they are positives. And then third, that segment is very unique. This is an opportunity for several of the things that Florida State has struggled with against their last two opponents, Boston College and Clemson, to be culminated into fixing them. Because BC, let's be honest, their quarterback, Castellanos, got outside the pocket. Well, Drones, the quarterback at Virginia Tech, is an athlete. Again, like the ACC is full of running quarterback. Everybody can frickin' run. It's the only guy they're going to face pretty much this year that doesn't run much is Tyler Van Dyke, and even he's improved at that a little bit. Got to be able to contain mobile quarterbacks. That's one. Two, flat out, can Florida State run the ball? Traditionally, because Jordan Travis isn't going to run as much this year. We can kid ourselves and say he's going to get back to it, but with him being up for the NFL draft, he's not going to run as much. They have to be able to just hand it to the running back, run downhill, and beat guys up. If they can't do that against Virginia Tech this weekend, pretty good chance Florida State's not a legitimate title contender. And third, this is the big one. We've seen the big plays from Florida State's passing game, but it's the two main guys. Primarily, can they spread it around a little bit against the Virginia Tech defense passing game that, again, it looks good, but it's not as good as you want to really get into. So we're going to talk about all of those things on this episode. But first, a message from today's sponsor, Bird Dogs. We want to make sure that you look good. This is a product for you. Much like Lululemon, this is an opportunity to get in some khaki shorts that are very flexible, very easygoing, but they don't have the restricting cotton and other things that you might not feel as comfortable with. I live in Florida. I try to avoid cotton. Make sure you check out Bird Dogs. It's a great product. Birddogs.com. Check them out. They are fantastic. Real quick, before I dive in, this is a game coming off a bye. You should be healthier. You should be fresh. You should be ready to play. Now, I'm not going to use this as a theme, but it's just something I always look at. Coming off a bye week, are you just ready to play football? Forget what color the uniform is. Forget what you got going on. Just hit the guy in front of you. That effort, the energy from the crowd, the fans didn't see their Noles last weekend. That's the first thing I just want to see in general. Forget all the stats and all the other stuff I'm going to throw at you here in a second. I got a gazillion. Are they ready to hit? Offense, defense, special teams, period. That's the first thing that every Florida State fan should look at with this game. Make sure that you do, because that's going to tell you a lot. If they don't come out and they're not super physical, that means more than likely they're taking Virginia Tech lightly. Not a good idea. I'll get into that in segment 3 through 1 and 2. It'll build up to why, but this is a very important thing. So let's talk about their defense, and I'll talk a little bit more about drones and stuff in this podcast, and then more on Thursday, Friday, and a little Saturday. He's talented, but it's very complex with him. It's not a one podcast deal to understand it. Their defense, though, against the pass, all of the following is Virginia Tech. 157.8 yards per game. That's pretty darn good. It's 10th in the nation. Just by numbers. This is just numbers. So be careful of what you mean or what you're thinking when I say they're a good pass defense. There's a lot of things you can figure out here in a second. plays of 10-plus yards, 10 or more yards that they're giving up. 33. It's 20th in the nation. 20-plus, only 10 of them. 15th in the nation. Sacks. They're okay. They're not bad. They're 13 sacks so far. It's 34th in the nation. For comparison, honestly, Florida State's underachieved there. They have 11. They're 59th. Florida State needs to get that going. That's something else. But only 3 picks. For a team that's number 10 in the nation, the total yards given up. 3 picks. It's not all that great. That's 82nd in the nation. That's a little concerning. Passes defended. That means you get your hands on the ball. Virginia Tech, 13. That is terrible. It's 120th in the nation. So wait a minute. These stats don't run together very well. What are we doing here? Why is it that way? I don't understand. Well, part of it is who you've played. The teams they're going up against, and then their own offense. They don't have, again, it's super, super complex, but Drones is a developing quarterback. They're trying to mitigate how many plays their defense is on the field. They don't have a ton of depth. They're not going to put their quarterback in a terrible position. He's learning. He's getting better. And I'll go into him a little bit more in a minute. But they're trying to shorten the game. And their schedule so far has been Old Dominion and Purdue at home, at Rutgers, at Marshall, home to Pitt. Now, the one team out of that group, and I'm just going to say it, and Florida State fans can laugh all they want, Marshall's a good football program. Not just a team, good program. They're 4-0 right now, and they've won 3 games by 7 points or less. They won at Notre Dame last year. They had big-time defense last year. Their DC's actually now at Miami. But that team's pretty good, and Virginia Tech was right there with them. They're developing. And then last week, they beat the bejesus out of Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh stinks, but they put the hammer down. Pittsburgh gave them chances. Virginia Tech figured it out. So they're in transition. So some of these numbers are a little iffy. But a couple of notes. Number one, Drones is a running quarterback. I mentioned this not too long ago. I think in the last 2 shows, actually. He's 230 plus. He will run over you like a big tailback or even an old school fullback. He can make a guy miss, etc. And he's not been real bad at throwing the football either. So at least recently, they don't have a ton of playmakers, but they're good enough that if Florida State gives them hope in that first quarter, that's why I said they got to come out red hot. There's just no secondary way to do this. If you give somebody hope and they've got a running mobile quarterback and you're jacking around and you don't keep him in the pocket, these stats with passing defense and stuff won't matter as much because they'll just run the ball and play it close to the vest and keep it close throughout. And then in the fourth quarter, anything can happen. A penalty, a blocked punt, one guy breaks a tackle, whatever. Don't jack around. So Drones had a game here recently that he was pretty good. And against Pitt, he was 12-19, 63.2%, 228 yards, 12 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That, my friends, is domination. And he also ran for 41 yards. He's just a very difficult player to keep in the pocket. He'll fake you out. He'll make a move. Instead of you getting a 7-yard loss against him, he'll fight forward, at least get to the line of scrimmage. He's just frustrating. He's just now figuring it out, though, and he's just getting started. So you're going to see Florida State run a lot of multiples. So what I mean by that is show one look and then do something after the snap. They're looking for big plays. It's the open book on what you do with a young quarterback. They can pretty much tell them they're going to do that on every play. It wouldn't make any difference. If you don't know what's coming, you don't know what's coming. If you panic when you see something different after the snap, you panic. You're looking for explosives going the other way. Open book, like I said. Florida State, if they can get that situation going where he has to throw more and Florida State can run, and we'll talk about the run defense here in a second because it is, Lord only knows, it is the culmination of problems that Virginia Tech has. If they can get a little bit of a lead, they don't have to throw as much. And again, Virginia Tech's not bad in pass defense, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The run defense is so bad, nobody throws the ball. They don't have to. They're terrible at run defense. If they can get a little bit of a lead, force Virginia Tech to come up, you can run a little bit, but then play action. Keon, Johnny, Jaheim, and Lord only knows, whatever you want to call you put Virginia Tech in a bad spot, and you force their quarterback to be a passer first, not a runner first, they will be in big trouble. So Florida State, yes, I know they're going against the quote-unquote 10th best pass defense in the nation. Don't give them explosives on their side of the ball. Then you don't have to be throwing the ball up because you're not behind. You can run the ball at them, and then their quarterback who's young. Again, this is complex. I get it. But all these parts fit together. You have a chance to kick the living crap out of them if you come out hot from play one, period. And I know it's going to drive Norvell and his staff nuts all week. They have to have perfect practices off the off week. I know this is kind of goofy to say, but this is the perfect letdown moment before you play another opponent that's quality. But they're looking forward to that Duke game. They can say what they want. Duke's pretty good. Duke should have beaten Notre Dame. They should be undefeated. They beat Clemson. Florida State plays Syracuse next week. They're not going to be excited about Syracuse. They're not. This is an opportunity to have a letdown, even after a bye. Don't let it happen. So I know that everybody is really excited about getting back to Doak and being supportive, and you should. But at the same time, we're talking about an opportunity for Virginia Tech to come into your house and cause a mess. At least get it into the late third quarter, fourth quarter if you screw around. So before we go into the second segment and I break down the passing defense for Virginia Tech, and this is where the total mismatch is. Florida State should completely dominate. Completely. When they throw the ball. One last point is the obvious. I'm just going to state it. You can't give them a free touchdown. No block punt, no fumble, no scoop and score, no freebie. They got to go 75 plus every time. If Florida State, I hate this in general, but if Florida State's coaching staff is not as aggressive and punts more on Saturday, it's probably good. Drones is not going to go 75 plus very often. If he's backed up inside his 20, has to go, Florida State should be good, especially coming off the bye, fixing up some of the things they had. Some of the stats I'm talking about are just not going to be as relevant. They'll be in trouble. So anyway, this is a big opportunity for Florida State. They can show why they're ranked number 5 in the nation in the Associated Press poll. This is a team they should beat. Mental preparedness, be physical. It'll take care of itself. All right. Before we go into segment 2, the full overlords of stretchy, fantastic pants, Bird Dogs. Make sure you look good in your pants, not just something that's average, the way it feels, the way it looks. You can take them to a date. You can take them to the pool. You can take them to any place that you go. Bird Dogs khaki shorts are stretchy. They're friendly. They're easy to wear. And they can go with anything. They can go with a shirt like this. They can go with a T-shirt, whatever it is. The cool thing about them is you don't even realize that you have them on. Bird Dogs are very comfortable. They're easy, relaxed, flexible. They're not like restrictive cotton. This is something you should always think about, especially where I live, again, in Florida, like I mentioned a while ago. It's easy to get confused with, hey, I want to look a certain way. I've got to put up with it not being as comfortable. Not anymore. Bird Dogs are more functional, and they're for any occasion. Again, pool, workout, whatever it is you want to do, hanging out, you can take your wife on a date. Bird Dogs is a great opportunity. Now, with Bird Dogs, if you want to find a way to get them, it's pretty simple. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege and enter code lockedoncollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this game is this specific mismatch. And it's almost that way for any game Florida State has because they're so explosive with the 50-50 ball. Thinking about it, Florida State's top 5 in the nation, just thinking about talent out wide in true 50-50 balls, meaning you're right next to the defender. He's quote-unquote done his job. But here comes the football. My guy is better than your guy. The Seminole has more talent and probably more size than the defender. Keon, I mean, he's as good a 50-50 ball guy there is in the country, in my opinion. Johnny's pretty close. He sometimes drops the easier one, but Lord have mercy, That guy does catch the difficult passes. It's bizarre, but you got to tip your cap, if you will, for when that happens. And here's the problem that this is why I led in with the statistics that I did with the opportunities for Virginia Tech's pass defense. It looks pretty good. But those opportunities I just mentioned about Keon and Johnny in single coverage, I don't care who they're playing, it's not good for the other team. And they're not good at stopping the run, so they're going to have to bring up guys. Or they're just going to get run over. That's my guess. Here are the numbers for Virginia Tech. They allow 177.6 per game and 4.65 yards per carry. They've only got 32 tackles for loss. It's 40th. It's okay. Third down defense is not good, 41.18. That means teams are able to run the ball on them, getting good downs and distances. 10 or more yard plays running the football, 25 of them. That's 91st in the nation, not good. 20 or more, 11, that's 125th. 30 or more, 4 of them, 103rd. Virginia Tech cannot stop the run. It's a team that just doesn't have the depth. Now, a couple of points about that. These are just numbers. They're just numbers. Excuse me. But at the same time, they're not lies. This is what happened. And I already read off the schedule, but Old Dominion, Purdue, Rutgers, Marshall, and Pitt. Not exactly 1995 Nebraska stuff, okay? They're giving up some pretty darn big numbers to mediocre teams, by and large. Not terrible, but they're not dominant. Florida State, on the other hand, this is just, this is the last 2 games. We can say whatever we want, but these are facts too. And I know they're banged up front, but against BC, 128 yards. Against Clemson, a pathetic 22. So that's 150 yards total in rushing for the Noles the last 2 games from 54 carries. So that's not even 3 yards a tote. That is terrible. No, I don't want to hear about injuries. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it at all. They had over 200 starts and combined with their depth chart up front. The guys that come in, if they're not good enough, that's on Florida State. I'm sorry. Get it done. You've got some really good running backs, and I know Jordan's not completely healthy, but he's still a threat. They have to be careful about how they defend him when he fakes or doesn't fake because they don't know what's coming. They're averaging less than 3 yards a carry. Even sack adjusted, it's barely over 3 yards. They should average 5. Don't want to hear it. So a couple of points in why it's important. If they could just average, let's say 4. Just 4 yards a carry. That changes everything because 2nd down and 6, play action, screen, run it again. Jordan Travis, a sweep play, something basic where if he's about to get hit, he's run out of bounds, you stay ahead of the chains. They must be able to consistently run the football on 1st down. That's the thing that in every game you want, but especially in this game. They have to mitigate the number of hits that Jordan Travis takes. I mean, his shoulder's probably not going to be healthy the rest of the year. We can say whatever we want or they can talk about whatever. It's probably not going to be. It's true. One of the ways to keep him healthy, hand it off. The running backs take the pounding. Quarterbacks just can't get hit anyway, but especially once they've got a shoulder injury. That's a no-no. And I expect that he'll probably not run much the next couple of weeks, especially with Duke coming up. Their defense is legit. So that's going to be interesting. The other concern that I have and there could be a lot of answers to this. Florida State may not even know the answer to this. Depending on the injury situation, and I have no insight onto that, are they going to move guys around or are they going to change the lineup up front? It's something to think about. They may have 2 different plans because whatever plan A is, maybe they leave it the same, maybe they don't. Maybe Mo's able to go, maybe he's not. I don't care what Norvell says. Like I always say, I don't care what coaches say about injuries. I learned years ago, don't believe coaches when it comes to injuries at press conferences. They got to figure it out. And unfortunately, left tackle and center are the 2 most important positions. Those are spots that have had injuries. They got to figure that out. Do they move Bless Harris around? Do they move somebody? I have no idea. Whatever it is, they can't average these numbers, this garbage below 3 yards a carry. They can't do it. They got to go up. And also, they got to put themselves in a position. I know I've mentioned this before. They haven't really thrown to the slots much. Maybe that's the extra help for the run game because if they spread it out beyond Johnny and Keon, maybe it's just going to give them a little extra. to keep nickels from blitzing, from looking into the backfield, from safeties creeping up. They're going to see a lot of downhill fronts on first down because Florida State does like to run the ball, and they should. But they got to make teams pay. And teams are also playing some games with it, and they're dropping to try to take Keon out. They got to mix it up. You can't just throw one thing at an experienced quarterback like Jordan Travis. This is his 6th year of football. If they are not able to do it, if they are not able to consistently run the ball on first down, they're not going to be able to take care of not only Jordan Travis, but stay ahead of the James. And you're given that chance now for Virginia Tech and Drones to not have to throw as much. Again, he's very inexperienced. If you can't run, you're probably not going to score as much. You become one-dimensional. That's self-explanatory. Very difficult. Don't allow Drones to get confidence by halftime. They're up 7, down 7, a close game. Anything can happen in the second half, especially if it comes at the end of that third quarter, if it's competitive. Florida State should be up 24-10 by the end of the third quarter, if not more, even with Travis banged up. And I think that's going to hurt him for a while. But even then, they should be up a couple of scores. But if you screw around and you can't figure out how to run the ball, it'll be 13-10, it'll be 17-14, it'll be something that's really alarming. I know Florida State fans don't want to hear it. They're going to yell. They're going to comment on YouTube. I'm telling you, the Drones kid is getting better. If you screw around and give him the chance to run or pass where he's not just having to chuck it, he can beat you. Florida State, you better take him seriously. And I'm sure, again, Norvell and his staff are talking about that. But they have to do it every single play, starting with play 1. I'm going to say this 1,000 times before the game. From play 1, Florida State better bring it. Physicality and focus. If they do that, these passing game numbers for Virginia Tech, they can stay high because the run defense numbers will get even worse. And Florida State will be up 21-7 going into the fourth quarter and pat their stats a little bit and get a couple more scores and win 31-10 or something, 35-10, something like it, whatever. But they have to do it in that first quarter. It's very, very important. So real quick, shout out to the Locked On channel every Friday, 11 to 1 on YouTube. The Locked On College Football Live Show, that is every Friday. You can check it right here on Locked On Seminoles on the YouTube page. If you can't make it between 11 and 1, it's downloaded. All the analysis about the games coming up from the guys and gals that do it. Like I do this for Florida State. For every single game there is, check it out. It's on the YouTube page. It's a lot of fun. Also, before I go into segment 3, we're going to talk – this is kind of fun. What should we be concerned about? It's still partly mismatches, but how that can be flipped is one part of it. And also, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stats and the things that I think Florida State could put up, despite what I talked about in segment 1, Virginia Tech's passing number. This is just my own personal take on what they can do. It's just, again, this is my perspective, so we'll see how it goes. But I think Florida State's passing game is going to be pretty good against Virginia Tech. We'll see. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get into the action. The app's easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including prop bets of all kinds. I'll talk about those in a second. But if you just want to bet on the first quarter, Florida State, Virginia Tech, an NFL game, whatever it might be, you can bet on a score like that. Or you could bet on the halftime score. And you could do the overall spread, player props, yardage, touchdowns, etc. What about the over-under? That's something else, and a lot of other things that you can do as well. Please visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So segment 3, this is kind of fun. I went over all these numbers. I'm a stat guy. But in segment 1, I talked about Virginia Tech's passing defense. They've got some talent, but they're not dominant. Again, I just want to read off this stat. This is a sign. Passes defended, 13. That's 120th out of 133 teams. But yet they're, wait a minute, that makes sense, Brian. They're only giving up 157.8 yards a game. That's because they can't stop the run. They're running the ball a lot. Teams are just running the ball in their games They're not playing great offenses. Don't think that it's dominant. Florida State should go off passing without throwing much, which again sounds like an oxymoron. Yards per play. This is a game they could average 15 yards per pass attempt. Completion, it could be darn near 20. Virginia Tech does not have the ability to play too high shell, meaning cover two. It's the defense most teams in the NFL use a ton, whether it's man under or zone under, and still be able to hit some plays because they just got better players. That's one. Two, screen game. If they're going to sit back, check downs to the running backs, the tight ends, Jaheim Bell, etc., instead of 3-4 yards, those could be 7-8 yards. 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2 never goes out of style. And finally, again, Florida State should be able to run the ball. What does that mean? Play action. By the middle of the first quarter, assuming Florida State's had at least one possession, if not two, maybe they take a shot. Maybe they wait to early second, whatever it is. When they take shots, there's no reason to believe Florida State won't hit some big plays and won't make some noise down the field. I know Keon and Johnny, those are the obvious. Can we finally get some other guys down the field with multiple opportunities? That's what I'm just personally curious with. But I think they can throw for 300 yards on, I'm going to say 15 to 16 completions, go 15 to 25. That's what I think. They're going to run the ball more because Virginia Tech doesn't have the depth and the talent to take the pounding, assuming Florida State's ready for it. You might see a few things different. Virginia Tech's going to save something for Florida State. They won't admit it, but I'm sure if Florida State adjusts during the game, they're in 2nd 6, 2nd 5, 2nd 4, up top. There is no excuse for Florida State not to hit those. Now, the one thing I will say, though, be careful. I put in bold, be careful, asterisk on both sides. If you get a lead, 10, 14 points, it's still not over. Drones is talented enough to make a couple guys miss, escape, throw a bomb, and score. In some ways similar to Castellanos. I'm not saying he's the same exact guy. Castellanos is a little smaller. He's fast, all those things. But drones can do that. That's one. And two, the other thing is just mental toughness in general to do your job. I know I'm talking like a coach, but one of the ways teams blow leads is special teams or the penalty, the dumb 15-yard penalty. Don't hand them an opportunity after you build a lead. Just like in the first quarter, got to come out and establish. Don't screw around. Don't be stupid. Make sure you do your job, whoever you are, even if you play on 5 plays a game and you're a special teams guy. Do your job. No dumb errors. Florida State is way better than Virginia Tech. If they do those things, they will win. Again, my prediction is they're going to hit some big plays, and I'm hoping that it's not just Johnny and Keon. And I think the running game will get better. How much is partially, unfortunately, due to the injury situation. And I know that's frustrating, but they got to figure it out regardless. If they want to be a playoff team, you got to find a way to overcome injuries. Football is brutal. That's all I got. So I appreciate it. Please hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and above all else, please comment. I'd love to hear what you got to say. Share this podcast, and I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. But everybody have a great day. Thank you very much.